a decision that redefined the presidency. It began with a choice no one expected. A single moment when the president stepped away from familiar script, rewriting the course of an entire administration. History would later analyze it, debate it, reinterpret it. But in that instant, it was simply a decision made under extraordinary pressure. To understand why this moment still echoes through time, we need to look at the fragile architecture of leadership in the White House. Every presidency is shaped by a blend of preparation and improvisation, of long-term vision and sudden pivots. And sometimes, a leader must decide between the safe path and the uncertain one, knowing the consequences may reverberate far beyond their term. The day began with a crisis simmering on the edges of national awareness. Reports have been circulating, opinions gathering momentum, and advisors preparing a measured response. They believed they understood the landscape, that the administration could navigate the turbulence with caution and calculated messaging. But underneath the surface, the situation was shifting faster than anyone realized. As the president entered the briefing, something felt different. The usual flow of information, layered, structured, precise, could not disguise the urgency that pulsed beneath it. Advisors offered recommendations built on months of analysis, yet their proposals lacked the clarity needed for a moment like this. The world was moving quickly, and their strategies were built for a slower tide. Then came the turning point, a detail buried deep within the morning intelligence summary. It wasn't the most dramatic element. It wasn't the longest report, but it revealed a change that rendered all previous plans obsolete. What had been a manageable challenge tonight before it grown into a moment demanding decisive action. The advisors braced themselves for debate. They expected hours of discussion, careful phrasing, political calculations. Instead, the president posed a simple question, one that cut through the noise and exposed the heart of the dilemma. The room stilled. The usual certainty faded. And for a brief moment, everyone seemed to realize that the decision ahead would reshape not only their strategy, but their legacy. That question unlocked the first crack in the old plan, revealing the possibility of a bold alternative. And as the president listened, weighing risks against responsibilities, the path forward began to shift in a direction no one had predicted. The room tightened as the president's question echoed through the air. Advisors exchanged glances, each one suddenly aware that the foundation of their carefully crafted approach was slipping away. It wasn't just that the situation had evolved. It was that the president had sensed something deeper, a crossroads hidden beneath the data, a moment that demanded more than the standard political calculus. As the discussion resumed, the tension grew sharper. Advisors laid out the risks of abandoning the established plan. They referenced public sentiment, diplomatic expectations, and the delicate balance that defined the current political climate. On paper, their logic was sound, but the president listened with an expression that suggested they were speaking to a moment that no longer existed. What troubled the room was the president's silence. It wasn't distant or distracted. It was focused, deliberate, a silence that signaled the emergence of a decision forming far beyond the boundaries of the talking points. Every advisor recognized it, though few dared to acknowledge it outright. Some leaned into caution. Others, sensing a shift, subtly adjusted their recommendations. The meeting had become a search for alignment that no one could fully articulate. Then came a revelation hidden in one advisor's hesitant comment. A small detail, easily overlooked, but significant enough to unravel the assumptions behind the original plan. The crisis was not merely escalating. It had already crossed a threshold. Waiting could no longer be an option. The situation required immediate and unambiguous action. The president leaned forward, asking for confirmation. The advisor nodded, knowing that acknowledgement would trigger a chain reaction. The room shifted instantly. The safe strategy dissolved, replaced by a sense of urgency that neither side of the earlier debate could ignore. Arguments sharpened. Some insisted that acting now would provoke backlash they were not prepared to weather. Others asserted that hesitation would weaken credibility and embolden the very forces they needed to contain. The conflict grew more pointed as both sides realized that every second spent debating pulled them closer to a moment where inaction would carry its own irreversible cost. Though voices remained calm, the stakes grew heavier with each exchange. The West Wing was no stranger to divided counsel. But this division carried a different weight. The president wasn't searching for consensus. They were searching for clarity, pressing deeper, questioning assumptions, dissecting the risks with increasing intensity. And slowly, a new path began to reveal itself. Not the cautious thread the advisors had woven, not the reactive measures they had prepared as contingencies. The third option, bolder, riskier, and anchored not in fear but in responsibility. The possibility of that choice changed the energy of the entire meeting. Every advisor felt the shift, and though they couldn't yet see where it would lead, they understood that a presidency was about to pivot in real time. The debate intensified as the implications of the emerging path came into focus. Advisors who had once aligned seamlessly now found themselves on opposite sides of an escalating divide. The president's willingness to consider a bold alternative unsettled those who favored predictable caution, while emboldening others who believed a decisive move could redefine the nation's stance in a moment of uncertainty. The conflict grew more personal than anyone intended. One advisor argued that the bold option would destabilize crucial diplomatic relationships. Another countered that failing to act would project weakness at a moment when strength mattered most. Their voices remained steady, but beneath the measured tone lay the unmistakable strain of conviction pressing against conviction. The president listened closely, allowing each perspective to unfold. Yet as the arguments collided, a deeper truth surfaced. The administration was confronting not just a policy dilemma, but a philosophical divide about leadership itself. Was a presidency measured by the risks it avoided, or by the moments it chose to rise beyond them? Tension thickened as fresh intelligence arrived mid-meeting, confirming that the situation was continuing to accelerate. The update invalidated earlier projections, placing the nation in a narrowing window where hesitation could invite consequences beyond their control. This revelation pushed the discussion into a sharper, more urgent realm. One advisor proposed a compromise, an incremental step that would signal movement without fully committing to the bolder strategy. But the suggestion faltered almost immediately. The new intelligence made it clear. Halfway measures would be interpreted as uncertainty. The moment demanded conviction, not caution disguised as action. That realization cracked open a room even further. Advisors who had quietly supported the emerging direction now spoke with renewed resolve. Those who opposed it grew more firm in their objections, warning of political fallout, diplomatic repercussion, and the unpredictable ripple effects of taking a stance so definitive. The president rose from their chair, pacing slowly as the weight of the decision settled across their shoulders. The atmosphere pulsed with an almost electric anticipation. Every person in the room sensed that they were nearing the point where debate would give way to resolution. But the conflict had not yet reached its peak. As the president returned to the table, they requested the final consequences of each possible course. Spoken plainly, without filters, without political cushioning, the advisors delivered their assessments with candor, each acknowledging that the choice ahead carried risks that could not be undone. The last argument ended in a heavy silence, not the hesitant quiet of earlier meetings, but the sharpened stillness that precedes a turning point. Everyone knew they were approaching the decisive moment, the instant when the president would choose a direction that would echo far beyond the walls of the West Wing. The decision was no longer theoretical. It stood at the threshold, waiting for a single sentence to bring it into motion. The president closed their eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of every voice, every warning, every hope laid out on the table. When they finally spoke, the words were calm, steady in a way that made the room fall silent. The bold path, the one that split the advisors and challenged the assumptions of the day, would be the course forward. The decision was made not out of impulse, but out of a recognition that leadership sometimes demands stepping into uncertainty with conviction. The reaction around the table was immediate, though restrained. Some felt relief, believing the decisive action would reclaim momentum in a rapidly shifting landscape. Others feared the fallout, envisioning headlines, diplomatic protests, and political storms. Yet regardless of their individual views, each advisor recognized the magnitude of what had just unfolded. A line had been crossed, one that separated the familiar from the uncharted. As implementation orders began to form, the president outlined the reasoning behind the decision. It wasn't about optics or approval ratings. It wasn't a gamble for legacy, or dramatic effect. It was a response shaped by responsibility, an understanding that the cost of inaction had grown too great to ignore. The nation needed clarity, and that clarity required a choice that carried undeniable weight. In the hours that followed, the West Wing moved with a new sense of urgency. Teams coordinated plans, updated communications, and reached out to partners who would be affected. The decision spread through the building like a shift in the weather, felt before it was fully understood. Some staffers sensed a change before they heard the news, recognizing the unmistakable momentum of a presidency pivoting in real time. By evening, the consequences of the decision began to unfold. Some reactions were immediate and intense. Others simmered beneath the surface, waiting to reveal themselves in the days ahead. But as the first wave of responses arrived, the president remained composed, standing firmly behind a choice that had set the administration on a new trajectory. The climax of the day was not the announcement itself, but the moment the president accepted the full scale of what the decision demanded. The responsibility, the risk, the possibility of both failure and historic impact. Each carried its own gravity, yet in embracing that weight, the president demonstrated a truth often overlooked. Leadership is rarely defined by ease. It is defined by the courage to act when the world demands resolve. As the night settled over the White House, a quiet reflection filled the Oval Office. The decision had reshaped the administration, crystallizing a point in time that would be studied for years. And in that stillness, one question lingered, not of regret, but of understanding. What happens when a single choice alters the very course of presidency? So what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again?